I am going to double the recipe today because my pan is bigger, and when I've made it, it's only went for like half the pan with the what would we call this, dish? Yeah, the dish, and I'm going to double it. So what I'll do is I'll tell everyone the recipe, but what I'll do is I'll just double that recipe for myself. So instead of I use maybe 1.5 sweet potatoes. I had quite large ones before, but I've got these ones, so I've just done 3 of these. But I would use maybe 1.5 or 1. How many did you end up cooking, Chris?
This is one large sweet potato, and it was quite a beefy one. It was a big one, that, and that made exactly 1.5 cups. Got this measuring thing here. It says cups imp, like imperial cups. So I guess it works.
Cups tend to change, don't they? Like wherever you are, I feel like.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm doing it in cups and tablespoons and teaspoons, so it's pretty easy. You can usually eyeball them as well, so that's sometimes what I tend to do. I find it quite hard to put it into measurements if I'm cooking, because usually I'm just like a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and then that's how I make it. So it's when I'm doing all the recipes on my page on Coco's plant-based scran, these are just like when I'm putting up the recipe, I'm like guesstimating how much I've put of everything, because I'm not used to putting actual measurements, because I'm just like, yeah, that tastes nice, so and I have to write everything down, so that's quite fun. So what I'll do is I'll just get started then. With this recipe, it's much easier to use a processor, so I'm going to be using a processor, but if you have a masher, then it's fine. Just mash your sweet potatoes down and it'll work absolutely fine. Like you can, because they're cooked, it's really, really easy. So I'm just going to get my measurement, make sure I've got everything. So in this recipe, we're going to need 1.5 baked sweet potato, half a cup of nut butter. So in the recipe, you can use any kind of nut butter. Cashew butter is really nice, but I'm using just smooth peanut butter. 2 tablespoons of maple syrup, just to add some more sweetness to it. Now, if you don't want it to be really sweet and you want it to be extra healthy, you don't need to add any sugar to it at all. But I've got a total sweet tooth, so usually I'll add maybe some maple syrup or some dates or something like that to it. 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 2 tablespoons of coconut flour, and the coconut flour is just to make it gluten-free. You could just add normal flour to it, you could add almond flour to it, whatever you've got handy will work, so it's really easy. And you also don't need to use any fat for this because of the peanut butter. The peanut butter works as a great fat, so you're not adding anything else in extra. You've got 1 tablespoon of vanilla, and you've got 1 tablespoon of cinnamon, and then you've got 3 to 4 spoons of milk. I'm using soya milk for this, but you could use oat milk or hemp milk or all the loads of different types of milks that you have. You can use any of that. And what we've also put down is for additional like add-ons, they maybe add on chocolate chips, or like I said, add in dates if you want to make it extra nice. And if you want to turn it into a sweet potato brownie, you could just add in a tablespoon of cocoa powder, and that's really good. That's lovely. So what I'll do is I'll just get started then.
I guess now would be a good time to turn the oven on as well, right? Do we need to preheat the oven?
Reminding me there. So the oven you would put on to, I think it's 320, 350. But I don't have that on mine, so I just had last time I made this, I just had it on my gas mark 4 or 5. So it works. Sorry? 180. Oh, it's because the recipe that I originally went with was
that must have been in Fahrenheit, because yeah, I did it in 180 and it was okay.
Right. So 180. So is that 4, Tom?
4, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm right. It's 4. He's always telling me which one's which with these ones. So I'm used to just having the how much it is normally.
I basically go with, if it's baking, it's probably 180. Everything else is 200 Tom.
Yeah.
But that's my rule for any kind of cooking.
Just gonna turn mine on just now, so I'm gonna do that. Easy peasy.
We've got a question from Pat. Can you use dairy-free butter instead of nut butter?
Dairy-free butter. I suppose you could, but the reason why you've got the nut butter in it is because it's just giving it that protein, and it gives it a really great flavour as well. It goes with it has, I don't think I actually put it on the ingredient list, but it actually has walnuts on top of it. I did forget that. Did I give you that in the recipe list, Chris? The ingredients.
That was another optional. Yeah, you can put nuts on the top of it. Yeah.
So usually, I would put I would chop some walnuts and put that on top. So the nut butter really just goes with the whole recipe. It just makes it really delicious. You could try it out. You could try it.
I did make something similar once with this one, the catch-all vegan block.
Oh yeah, that's good.
And that it works quite well. I did find that the whole thing was a lot. It wasn't very brownie consistency. It was very wet. So I think possibly what the peanut butter might do is make it a bit more claggy as well and bind together.
Yeah.
But it may also be that I didn't add enough flour in. And I'm also going to experiment myself today with adding just a tiny bit of xanthan gum into the mix as well. So xanthan gum is, for those who don't know, is a vegan alternative for it acts as a binder, like gluten-free, like gluten in flour. Xanthan gum's used in a lot of gluten-free items. So I'm just going to try. I've just put a little bit in there just to see how it works, and I'll let you all know how it turns out.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting. I've never cooked with that before, so you'll need to let me know how that comes out, Chris. That sounds really nice. I think with mine today, because I made them the other day there, and I'm quite a sweet tooth, I will be adding the add-ons in, but after this as well, I will put on my page the proper recipe, and then I'll have them at the bottom. So it means that if anybody wants to maybe get the recipe, then you can just go into my page and we can do that.
I've written the name of that in the chat function there as well for everyone's Coco's plant-based ground.
I've been a bit lazy recently adding things to it, but it's because I've not been cooking. My partner has been, so that's why I've been so lazy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my sweet potatoes. Now, like I said before, it would be 1.5 cups, and I'm using 3 sweet potatoes because I want to make just a bit more. So in your either mixing bowl or your processor, I've got a Ninja. I'm going to put my sweet potatoes, so I'm just going to do that now.
And just for the benefit of Chris, who's just joined us there, Coco has microwaved these already, so these are cooked. These aren't raw ones. So she microwaved them, but I just simply put them in the peeled them, cooked them in boiling water, and then mash them that way. So either way works.
Yeah, I just done this for quickness. I just thought about all the water I'd be using to steam them or boil them, and I've got a microwave there and I have a baby, so microwaving just seemed like the best way. You can always keep the skins as well when you're finished. Keep the skins, and then you could maybe stuff them or crisp them up and have it as a snack. So I'm actually going to keep that because I don't know what I'm having for dinner yet, so could do that. So I'm just placing all of the mix in here, all the sweet potato.
Can I just put a question out there to everyone? Put it in the chat or shout out. Is anyone here vegan themselves? Not vegan, have various allergies from pets. I'm personally am vegan. iPhone Anne is a vegan. Vegetarian Victoria. Not vegan, but I don't want to eat dairy. So good to have dairy-free recipes. Claire says, I'm a learner vegan, gradually building up. And Sony says, I am vegetarian, no egg.
Excellent. I'm vegan. I've been vegan now since 2000, December, the start of December 2017. So pretty much about a month after I met Tom, I was vegetarian for a couple of years, and I hadn't. I guess I just thought it was really hard. And then when I met Tom, he'd been vegan for a few years, and when we were together, I was cooking for us anyway, and it had to be vegan. And I realised just how easy it was, and how I didn't miss any of the dairy, anything else. And so I just made the decision then, right before Christmas as well. So my family thought I was a bit crazy for giving up all the cream and the cheese and everything before Christmas, but I really didn't miss it. It was really good. So that's been 3 years now, and this year I've been vegan, and it's what a difference in the supermarkets and everything else. It's so great. So that's me now. Put all my sweet potato, and here actually is quite a lot. So maybe just more than 3 cups. So that would be 1.5 cups of sweet potato. So what I'm going to do now is, in your mixing bowl or in your processor, yeah, it's easy, isn't it? In the processor, I'm going to add all the ingredients bar the milk. So we're going to add in, you would say, 1/2 cup of nut butter, but I'm going to put in a full cup of nut butter. Now, we always buy these giant. That's what we usually get organic, but I couldn't find any organic in the shop. You're the same, Chris.
Oh, absolutely. I eat that by the spoonful.
Yeah, I know. I swear I need to hide these, because we go through one a week or something. It's like, if not less than that. Like, Tom just after every meal has like 2 bananas and nut butter for his dessert. So we go through it very quickly. That or dates as well.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm the only one in my household that likes dates, so I buy them. But then I can see how much I'm eating, because it just goes so fast. It's amazing how many dates I can eat if they're in the house. I don't miss them when they're not in the house, but once they're in, they last just one night usually.
Yeah, Tom, with his bin diving, found loads and loads and loads of dates, and I'm surprised they're not all gone. We've been very good. They're not all disappeared yet, so.
Now, just to say as well, I'm using one of these hand blenders. It doesn't work quite as well as the sort of blender that Coco's got there, but it'll do.
Yeah.
It'll just make it mash. Okay, I have already mashed my potatoes a little bit. This is more to make it a bit easier to blend the nut butter in with the with the potato.
I just used a tablespoon measure just for that. I've tested that out before, and it was 3 tablespoons per 1/2 cup, I think it was. So okay. I've just put like 5.5, 6 tablespoons in there. I'm not bothered if it's too much, because like it's still going to turn out really delicious.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I always find it really hard. Our cup measurements is a plastic jug, and I find that if I put enough in, and then I have to sit and scrape it all back out again, so I just find that a lot easier.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna scrape that out. So I've only just got the sweet potato and the nut butter in there, and then I'm gonna add, because I'm a sweet tooth, I'm gonna add the maple syrup. So that's 2.
What's that you're adding?
I'm adding maple syrup, but if you don't want to add maple syrup, you don't need to. I just find it's lovely and sweet.
Yeah, I don't have any maple syrup, but I have some golden syrup, which I'm going to put in. I'm probably just going to put a tiny bit in. I'm not going to put in as much as the recipe calls for, because I always find that recipes ask
It's a
for
lot sweeter, isn't it?
even when I'm making a cake, I'll half the sugar amount and then add if necessary.
If the maple syrup, if you don't have any maple syrup, another add-on, like I said, was the dates. So if you had dates, then
I've eaten them all.
You ate them all.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna add in my baking powder. So in this, it's 1 teaspoon of baking powder. And because I've doubled the recipe, I'm gonna add in 2. For these as well, if you want to make them really fluffy and not as dense, even, you could add flax egg to it. That would work. Or there's another recipe where you can add, what are they called? Cannellini beans? I've got them here. Yeah, cannellini beans. You can add those to it to this mixture, and that'll make them really fudgy. And then that's some extra veggies, hidden veggies for you as well. So this is actually half a teaspoon measure, so I'm adding 4 of these in, but usually I'd only add 2. Because I can't find all my measuring spoons. They're all in the sink, I think. So I'm gonna add in some vanilla extract as well. I'm gonna add in, you're meant to add in 1 teaspoon, but I'm adding in 4 because, no, 2, sorry. Because these are half, I'm gonna put in 4. Okay, so at the moment I've got in here sweet potato, nut butter, I've got baking powder, maple syrup, and vanilla extract. So now I'm going to add in the coconut flour. I'm just going to give this spoon a little wash because it's covered in peanut butter. So I'll just wait a wee second. I think this is the quietest workshop I've
think so.
Isn't it?
Got one here.
Everyone usually chatting and asking me questions, and everyone's so quiet.
We've been having a cheese discussion on here. The soya cheese made like ricotta, which I made once, and it was very, very good. And one that I've not come across called thyme cheese, which apparently is one of the best, but quite pricey. I've never heard of that one before.
Thyme, yeah, I bought that from vegan supermarket once, and I think it was an apricot one. It was quite nice.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, really, really nice. I've made cheese before. I made cheese a couple of Christmases ago, and it was so easy. I just used carrageenan, but I didn't use as much, so it was more like a cream cheese rather than like a kind of solidified one, and it was really, really good. It was delicious. But the best ones I think you can get at the moment is I quite like the Violife mature block. I get that from Sainsbury's, and there's another one, the smoked apple. What's it called?
Oh, the Applewood.
Yeah, Applewood cheese. You can get that from Sainsbury's as well, and I love it.
And the health food shop in Stirling also sometimes has a Violife smoked, and that's rather good. It's just like the stuff that's in the red packaging that was an old Christmas favourite.
Sorry, my daughter just kind of crawled into the kitchen there. So I'm. Yeah, you need to close the gate.
Miyoko from Lorraine says Miyoko from California has a smoked mozzarella that's the best, and she also has a book about vegan cheese making. That's great. I don't suppose you could share a link to that, could you, Lorraine?
I recently bought a book from The Works. They've got loads of vegan recipe books in at the moment, and there's one called Vegan for Good, and at the start of that book, they've got a recipe for vegan mozzarella. It looks incredible. It looks so good. Definitely going to try that. They also this blew my mind completely. They also have a recipe for quick nut milks, which is all it is peanut butter or cashew butter or whatever in your blender with water.
Wow.
That's it.
Nice.
And I was like, why have I never thought of that before? The amount of times I've ran out of soya milk or whatever, and I could just make some nut milk just like that in the processor. So there's a tip. So I've added
We've got a few links come through to that as well, so I'll share those out again. And you were asking, I think Siobhan was asking, I think it was, asking about the ricotta. I'll send a recipe for that. It is dead easy, really, really easy. A lot of it's putting ingredients together and waiting. So you put your coconut flour in there, yeah?
Sorry?
You've put your coconut flour in there.
Yeah. So I've just added my coconut flour, and to that I've got my nut butter, my vanilla, my baking powder, my maple syrup in there. So now I'm going to add some sweet cinnamon. The recipe only asks for 1 teaspoon, but I'm going to add in 2 because I've doubled my recipe. And you can't have too much cinnamon, especially with things like sweet potato or pumpkin or whatever. I think that'll be really good.
Yeah, I bet something like nutmeg will go nice with this as well.
Yeah, I'd love to at some point play around with some cheese recipes and maybe do a workshop at some point. That would be fun.
That would be fun.
Have loads of different ingredients that we could then add to it. So you could just make a plain cheese or garlic or paprika, or add fruit into it. Or I think that would be a lot of fun. Right, that's me got everything in my blender now. So I've got everything in here. You can see. And what I'm gonna do as well, this is on, I'm just gonna mute just so that your ears, just to save them a bit.
You've not put your milk in yet, no?
No, so your milk, you have to, what you do is you blend it or you mix it together until it's kind of like a crumbly texture, and then you slowly add your milk to it. So then you know what consistency you've got, because you don't want it to be too much like a batter. You want to be able to manipulate it when it's like even kind of like a soft dough. You want to be able to manipulate it on your in your dish. Okay, so I'm just going to pop that on now. And if you find as well that it is quite it's maybe too dry, you can add more milk to it. Or if it's not dry enough, you can and it's quite wet to begin with, and you're worried about adding milk to it, just add a little bit more coconut flour or whatever flour you want. If you're using almond flour or just regular flour, you could just do that, add it on a wee bit more. So I'm just going to do that, and I'm just going to mute myself because I'm going to save your ears.
We've just had one person join as well, so for your benefit there, we are recording this, so it will be available afterwards.
Did I mute myself again?
Yeah, there we go.
So that's the consistency I've got. It isn't as crumbly as it has been before because I've doubled the mixture. So I'm just going to add in a little bit more flour just to get it a bit more crumbly, and then add the milk, just because I want to keep myself right. How's yours come out?
Mine's probably a little stiffer than what you had there, but I wouldn't necessarily describe it as crumbly though. It's probably more like a thick dough.
Yeah, thick dough. You might, I don't know, you might want to leave it at that, or maybe.
Should it be like, when you say crumbly, should it be like, when you mix flour and butter together?
Yeah, so you take, so it kind of falls apart, but it's not really sticky.
Okay, I need more flour then.
I think it just depends on what your sweet potatoes are like, eh? Because sometimes they come out really, sometimes the mixture comes out really, really well, perfect. Sometimes if you've maybe boiled your potato or
Aye.
was a bit more at the wet stage. Sorry, I can't actually see the other messages. Could you read them for me, Chris?
Mine is a bit like a wet batter stage. Put in some more flour. I might not add milk. Are you
Okay,
saying,
yeah.
Siobhan, that you have put in flour, or you will, or I'd say keep going with the flour until I tried something similar to this before, and like I say, it did come out. It just didn't cut at all. I had to eat it with a spoon over the pan, basically.
This is a really good one because they're like, you want it to come out fudgy, but you don't want it to come out wet.
Have done already. Can add more if necessary. I think
Yeah.
with a lot of baking, you kind of need to follow the recipe quite closely. But I think possibly with this one, you'll get away with a bit more eyeballing.
Yeah, I think so, definitely. That's what I mean. Like when I always do recipes, I always end up eyeballing everything that I'm doing anyway, and everything always turns out really well. Because I've made it before, I kind of know what the consistency is meant to be like. So I would just do it like that. When it comes out, it'll just be really delicious. I know a lot of people like to eat them hot, but it's really worth letting them cool down a bit, because that's when you get the really nice fudgy kind of texture from it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mute myself again actually, and just pop that on for a wee half minute.
Yeah, and Siobhan's saying first time sub will see. The thing is with this, all the ingredients are good, so no matter if the consistency is there or not, the flavour still will be.
So that's good for me, if you can see what I mean by it being a bit more crumbly.
Yeah.
So that, I would say that was good for me. Now that is double the recipe. That's not, obviously if you're using one of these, it'll be a lot less, but yeah, that's good for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in maybe just a teaspoon of milk, and just see how we get on, and mix it again, and then I'll put my parchment paper down, and then we'll pop it on. At this stage, this is a good stage as well if you wanted to add any other add-ons. So for me, I think what I'm going to do is when I do put it into the dish, I'm going to add some chocolate chips just to make it unhealthy. I'm going to add some chocolate chips to it, and maybe just to 1/2, so I can give my daughter a little bit, because I've not put any like refined sugar or anything in it. And then I'll put some chopped nuts on top as well. So I'm just going to do this. Did I?
Okay, so that's how mine is looking. I think I'm quite happy with that as well. I think I might add just a tiny bit of butter, like milk, like you. But yeah, I'm sort of erring on the side of dryness rather than too wet. I always find it's worth shaking it up a little bit when you're using nut milks as well.
No, I've just tasted it just with my finger, because if you taste it now, you'll understand what the flavors are going to be like. So at this point, if you want to add anything else to it, to make it sweeter, to add some extra flavors in there, so you could obviously add your chocolate chips or whatever. But mine's is just perfectly sweet from the sweet potato and a tiny little bit of maple syrup. It's just perfect. So I'm quite happy with that. The consistency is not wet, but it is dough-like, and so it'll be quite easy to manipulate.
Yeah.
Dish.
I was just looking over there, hoping that there was some orange in there. I bet orange would go nice in this.
Some orange, yeah, absolutely. Like you could add anything you want to it. It is a healthy treat. It's not really, really sweet. You could even, because of the coconut flour, you could add coconut shards to it, just to have that texture inside it. You could add loads of different things here, but I agree. Orange would be really nice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my dish and I'm just going to put some parchment paper on it, if I can find where I put it. 2 seconds. So I actually had to buy some parchment paper because I ran out from last time. So I just bought some. I did have reusable stuff, but Tom accidentally cut through it with a knife. So that was useless. I'm just 2 seconds. I'm doing 2 things at once here, and I'm also putting my daughter's dinner on. That was what I made earlier.
Well, I think I'm going to add a bit more sweetness into mine.
Yep.
I think I was probably a little bit stingy. Although it's meant to be a healthy dessert, it's meant to still be quite a nice sweet treat, eh?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, like I said, at this stage you can you can change it to however your taste preference is. You can add loads of different things to it to make it taste delicious. It's really good. If you're on a health kick or you just need something to take to work that's not too sweet, if you're diabetic even, it's just a nice, it's just something nice that's not going to be too sugary. I've got my parchment paper. Yeah.
So you're spooning that into the dish now, yeah?
Yeah, so what I'm just struggling with this, trying to get this out. Yeah, but I'm going to spoon it into here now. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get another bit of parchment paper, or if you've got a reusable one, I just use that to press down on it, just to kind of mould it the kind of shape that I want to get, so I don't get it all over my hands.
Good tip.
I'm just trying to get this bit out. Kind of just like stuck on there. Don't try that at home. So I'm just going to do that. So it's very much like a dough now, but it's not too wet, but it's not really dry either.
Yeah.
But that's what's going to make it really fudgy and delicious. I can get this all out. My parchment paper is going a bit ski whistling this now. I'm going to have to fix that. I don't have a spatula, and it's one thing that I need to get, but I don't really want to buy one new.
Yeah.
So this, because I've doubled the recipe, there's quite a lot here, so that's going to be, mine's might take a little bit longer to cook because of that, but for yours it takes about 30 minutes to cook.
I seem to have a lot as well. I wonder if that sweet potato was actually bigger than I thought.
Yeah, it might have been. That's what I mean. The sweet potatoes are completely different. Like, it changes, I think. So
Siobhan's saying that her mixture tastes great. Not as sweet. Well, she doesn't have a sweet tooth, so it might not be for everyone. I think mine's the same actually. Mine's not as sweet as I would usually have it, but I think what my plan is, I've got some banana in the freezer there, so I'm going to make banana ice cream with some peanut butter, and that'll probably give it a little bit of sweetness to complement it. I think. But it's tasting pretty good.
Yeah, that's what's good about this recipe, is that it is because it's not got any refined sugar in it, and it has got, you know, a vegetable in it and things. It isn't as sweet, but the sweet potato does give it a nice sweetness and a depth to it. So when you do eat it, you don't maybe feel as guilty.
Yeah, and then you can eat more.
Yeah, exactly. I made some the other day there, and I made 6 bars, and Tom ate 5. I woke up in the morning, there was 1 bar left.
Classic Tom. Classic Tom. So we have a question which I don't know the answer to. What's the alternative cooking style if we don't have an oven to bake the mixture?
I'm not sure actually. I don't know if steaming it would work.
That could work, yeah.
I guess you could mold it into I guess you could mold it into a shape, maybe into like a sausage even, with parchment paper, and then wrap it in cling film and then steam it. Or
I guess some microwaves have an oven facility.
Yeah, if your microwave has a confectionery oven in it, that would work. It might just take a bit longer, but you could steam it like a dumpling, floaty dumpling.
Worth a try.
Yeah, and then once you finish, if you do it into like a sausage shape, you could just then cut it like biscuits even. But I'm not sure on that one. That would be something that I would have to try out.
I wonder as well if you could put it in a heavy pan and do it a pan bake.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Possibly, or even take the mixture out into the woods and have a campfire. Clean up after yourself though.
Stick it on a barbecue.
I had a cake made in a cast iron cauldron almost on a barbecue, and it was amazing. So that possibly work.
Yeah. So what I've done here is I'm just going to get rid of all this extra parchment paper, just so it's not as messy.
Pat's also asking as well, could you make them into pancakes?
You could make, I guess you could make them into pancakes. There's not like there's any raw eggs or anything in there, and they would be quite nice if they were kind of. What do you mean, like cook them in the oven as pancakes, or do you mean like fry them like pancakes?
I guess if you were doing it on as a pancake, fry them as drop scones. Oh yeah, why not? That probably work.
You could do that. Yeah, you could do that. Absolutely, actually, that would definitely work. Yeah, I'd actually quite like to try that.
Yeah. But I guess you could make this. I guess add less flour, add more milk, and see. I guess it wouldn't stick together like a traditional pancake would. But yeah, drop scones would definitely work. I don't see why not.
Well, this is sliding out because it's in the thing, but that's mine. What I've done is I just got the parchment paper and I just press it down. Yours looks great.
Yeah, not bad. And I've got some flaked almonds to put on the top as well.
Yeah, so I'm just going to get rid of this. This can go in the sink. With all my other dishes. And what I'm going to do for my topping is I've got some walnuts here. And I'm going to chop some walnuts and I'm going to put some walnuts on top. And I also have some dark chocolate chips as well that I'm just going to pop in there because I just fancy it.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. So I'm just going to do that now. So I'm going to get my walnuts.
I think I'm going to leave mine how it is. I've put some almonds on the top there now. But I think what I might do, possibly when it comes out of the oven, is just give it a dust of some cocoa powder, maybe just on one half.
Yeah. You could even add maybe raisins to it if you like raisins.
Yeah. So Pat's also saying she did it once with leftover oatcake recipe. Just added soya milk, filling, but lovely.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Can't go wrong with oatcakes. Like my mum makes. I don't know if you're aware, but there's two types. There's the oatcakes like you get up in Scotland, and then the Staffordshire oatcakes, which are more like a pancake kind of a thing. And my mum makes the best apple cakes ever. Amazing.
Yeah, Tom's made of yeah, yeah.
Oh, good.
So I've just chopped some walnuts up quite small. And I'm just gonna just add these on top. And then I'm gonna press them in. That was just a handful of walnuts. And then I'm gonna grab some dark chocolate chips. But I did say I was gonna leave a little bit for my daughter to have, so I'm not gonna put them all over. I'm gonna leave a little quarter out for Sorrel, so she can have some. She's never had chocolate yet. Sorry. And, she's not having chocolate till her first birthday, so. And because I put them in there, I'm just going to press them in.
I've just remembered I bought some dark chocolate yesterday, so I'm actually going to chop up some dark chocolate and put that on top.
Yeah, good job.
So I guess since this is a plant-based baking workshop, we're not used any egg, but for those who don't know, the best egg substitute is getting some linseeds and grinding those up with some warm water, or you can get the ready milled linseed, grind it up with some water, and that works as an egg binder.
Yeah, so it's for 1 tablespoon of flaxseed or linseed milled, it is 3 tablespoons of water, and that's a full flax egg.
It works just the same. It's quite amazing.
Yeah, there's a few things you can use as an egg replacement. So you can use oil, you can use banana, you can use applesauce. What else can you use?
I guess as a fluffing agent, you can use the aquafaba.
Aquafaba, yeah, that's a bit more faff, but it does really give like everything a nice, a lighter. When it comes to baking, anyway, it makes everything much lighter. It's beautiful. I love making mousses, like chocolate mousses with.
Oh yeah, I like that.
It's delicious, and it's just a byproduct from chickpeas. So you can make a chickpea curry, and then you can have a chocolate mousse for dessert. It's delicious, brilliant.
Absolutely. And chia seeds work well as an egg replacement. I guess most seeds do, really. Like I would have thought that pumpkin seeds would work okay. I mean, this is one of the big things with
pumpkin seeds don't work.
Oh, okay. Always learning. But you know, the thing with baking for me was, especially like vegan baking, is I can't get past how much oil some of the recipes need, and I can't bring myself to do it. So something like this is really nice. Like there's less of the guilt in it.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of similar to if you're making like protein balls and things like that. They don't really ask for much oil either, because you're using things like nut butters, and you're using things to sweeten them up like dates. So you don't feel as guilty, and they're full of protein, and they're really delicious. You don't feel as guilty. You're right, you don't feel as guilty eating.
Yeah, I guess the thing as well is, like, we both said guilty quite a lot there. You should never be guilty about what you're eating.
No.
As long as it's well, for there are some exceptions, I guess. But if you put the label of guilt food onto something, then it makes you want it even more. So you shouldn't. Everything in moderation.
Don't you? I'm gonna have my Red Bull now.
I feel guilty about that. That is a guilt food.
It is. But I'm a mother. I'm actually quitting sugar next month. So that's why I wanted to make these sweet potato blondies, because it has no refined sugar in it. I was following a few recipes last month, which were, I think they were maybe American, and the amount of, they used the same amount of refined sugar as they did flour in the recipe.
Wow.
And I just thought that's so much sugar, and I halved it, and you couldn't tell that I'd half the amount. So they just must be so used to having such sugary foods. But I'm completely addicted to sugar, drinking Red Bull and eating chocolate and things like that. So I'm starting to make healthier choices, like these. Apart from the dark chocolate on top, but trying to make better choices when it comes to sugary treats.
Yeah.
Using nice sugar, nice unrefined sugars like dates and maple syrup instead. Yeah, you feel much better after eating it, I think. You don't get that dip, do you?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
Yeah,
so is yours in the oven now?
Yep, I've popped it in the oven while we were chatting, and I've put a timer on for 30 minutes.
Join our Facebook group as well, and check out Coco's plant-based scran as well. That's on Facebook. Do you have a website, Coco? No, just on Facebook at the minute.